Hello. Anyway,
that was beautiful.
I'm trying to be more entertaining for our listenership. Hello and welcome to the podcast from the underground. Don't tell anybody.
It's like a Nazi resistance.
Yeah. We're right here, direct from the underground in the 40s or the 30s. When was the war?
It was the 40s. Although there was probably some oppression going on in the late 30s, I imagine. So,
do you have any fleeting thoughts, Channing? Is this?
I just had some floated right out of my mouth
What?
a second ago. Isn't almost every word that you say kind of a fleeting thought in a way?
I don't really know if any thoughts are not fleeting thoughts because they all just sort of come and go, and then you can write them down or record
Say
them.
or think about them for a second. And
Yep.
then let them be on their merry way.
Okay. So, how are you, Channing?
Good. Just got off work, like always. Before we do these.
Like always? Like I'm always
like
off work?
I'm never not working. My life is work.
Life is a chore.
And then you die.
Life is
And who knows? What if it's just more work after you die? You just die and heaven exists, but really it's just like a 9-to-5 job.
And then you
have to
fill
put
out
your
an
time
I-9.
in and- yeah.
Yeah, you go up to heaven, and then they're like, oh, come this way. You have to fill out your paperwork. And you're like, what? I don't want to do that.
Can I be alive again? I mean, I don't want to do this again.
Rather have
Kill
pain.
me again.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd rather have pain and suffering on Earth than have to file your paperwork, God.
that'd be a weird
This is
situation. Too, 'cause
boring.
like, you wouldn't. Would people still be like, "Oh my god, this is so horrible. I'm gonna kill myself"? 'Cause you're already dead. So if you, I don't know. It's like a whole.
No, it wouldn't be. What it would be, it would be numb. It would be you thinking that you're happy doing all this work, but it really you would, if you were back on Earth, you wouldn't be happy at all. But because of the hypnosis of heaven, you think you're happy. Heaven is just being pumped. The ventilation system's just being pumped in with
Happy gas.
happy gas and
this is so
nitrous
fun.
oxide and
Every day's like a Disney musical. You like sing a song as you're walking on
Yeah.
the clouds to work.
It's just because you're being pumped full of freaking drugs the whole time.
It's a really dark version of heaven we just created within like 30
Well,
seconds.
that's what I was going to say is if this is heaven, what you'd really be finding out is that that's not heaven, that's just reality, and reality is drug-induced coma so that you can do work for some business or something, some overlord of some sort, work for the government.
The heaven government.
No.
The heavenment.
Oh, man.
How are you? How's your day off?
Stupid. No, I don't know. It's been fine. I haven't done anything much yet. I got some coffee from the bikini-clad coffee shop.
Ooh.
I don't know what the name of the shop is, but the girls there wear bikinis. They sort of took Dutch Brothers' idea of having young girls help you, and they decided to go one step further and make them wear bikinis. And so it's really awkward, but they're like the closest place that makes good coffee. So I go there and I'm like, should I stare at the girl, or do I just like look ahead, or do I make pleasant comments? Should I mention the fact that she's naked? I don't know.
That would be weird because
It's really weird.
I feel like anybody who pulls up, they themselves are probably thinking that you're just some pervy guy.
Well, I was trying to think of like, there's no way most females probably don't go to this coffee shop on purpose because they're like, if a girl shows up, does the other girl go like, oh, I get it. Oh, just trying to make that money. Like, I don't get how that interaction would go because how do you just ignore the fact that she's wearing a bikini in the winter in a drive-up coffee stand?
Is there any kind of signage up that even lets you know that they wear bikinis? 'Cause
Not
I could see
really.
You just, look, a coffee shop, and you just cruise up.
They
to
don't
to get
really
a
warn
coffee,
you.
and
No.
then they just open the door and they're half naked there.
Yeah, and it's like it's fine. It's just like it's socially weird. Like it's just like I don't know. Like as a dude, I kind of like it because I like scantily clad beautiful young women, but
As all normal men, I
as a
assume, do.
business, that I want to go to for their coffee, I have to I have to deal with it. It's fun. It's so weird. It's so weird. And then I feel like anything I say to them is just like flirting because they're half naked. So it's weird. So I just don't say anything and then just stare awkwardly into the distance and look down when I hand them my credit card because I'm a 12-year-old.
It's yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, it's just a weird spot, but they make really fucking great coffee. They use really good coffee, and it's really smooth and really good coffee. So it's
just like
a
double win.
have to go
really,
there. It really is a great idea.
Attractive women and good coffee.
Oh yeah, for sure. Why not?
It's like the strip club of coffee
And
shops.
it's right in the middle of Springfield, where there's just 1,000 strip clubs, and I've got to think there's some correlation between this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Either these girls are strippers also, or the person who owns it also owns a strip club, or they just thought of a good idea, which is to have them, get people in there because these girls are half naked.
So is it only women, or are there dudes that work there?
Oh, there's no way there's dudes that are wearing bikinis
like dudes
in
in
there.
swim trunks in there.
Well,
Or
swim
bikinis,
trunks
there we go.
or banana hammocks.
They just have to have a 6-pack and be muscular in order to qualify.
Yeah, but then you're gonna confuse your clients. The customers are gonna be like, "Wait, I came here to see a girl, and you're a dude with your shirt off."
They'd have to have like a
weird.
male and female side, like female customers on one side,
You're
male
just
on
making
the other.
It's too complicated. We'll just
No, I just like
they'll
to
just
appeal to
cater
the
to the
masses.
men. Yeah, it's like a Hooters, for both people. So you'd have dudes. Like there's a cool sketch on the Kroll Show, and it's called Balls, I think, because it's the opposite of Hooters, and it's just dudes wearing like banana hammocks and just sticking their junk near people, and it's like only girls that go there, and then when a guy goes there, it's like super weird for the guy because he's around a guy who's just whoring himself out. It's fucking hilarious, really. But anyway, that's life. Oh no, just a second. Yeah. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that, everybody. That was a bit of a technical issue. Had to deal with. So what is our first word of the day?
Well, the word that I'm bringing to the table this week is horripilation.
Horripilation.
Horripilation. I just really like dragging out the beginning of the word.
Because it has a word horror in it.
Is such a fun word to say for some reason. But no,
Yes.
horripilation, which is a bristling of the hair on the skin from cold, fear, etc. Goose flesh, if you will.
Ooh, goose flesh. I haven't heard that one. I've heard of Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goosebumps, yeah, which is a series of young adult horror novels.
R.L. Stein, dog.
Whatever. Is it R.L.
Yeah.
Stein? That's awesome. You were right on point with that.
I
used to watch
read
the
those.
shows.
Oh, I read the books growing up.
Yeah, I
all
think
of
I
them.
read a few of them. I read one about Halloween masks that were taking over their the teenagers. They you would put on the mask and it would turn you evil while you were wearing the mask, and then they had to take the masks off, which was really difficult. And then they made one of the TV shows about it, and I watched that one too, and it was really awesome. Anyway, horripilation, aka Goosebumps. Yeah, that's a good one. Very interesting word.
Yeah, it was one that I hadn't heard before.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Let's see here.
Because it seems like a weird, you would be talking about having it, not actually having it.
He wondered if that was because they all were ready to leave, but as he surveyed the crowd, he began to feel something prickly and wonderful happening to his skin. Horripilation. Sorry, that's just a weird sentence. Anyway,
That doesn't make any sense.
that
and then
wasn't
you just
like a
call it
good
something.
yeah.
You say I have goosebumps, which is also called,
here's one that actually uses it
Yeah.
in a sense. A wonderful desire and love impel men from distant regions to visit the holy spot, and the first sight of the Kaaba causes awe and fear, horripilation, and tears.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So
So instead of saying it,
horripilation.
ooh, I got goosebumps from that. Just be like, oh, I'm feeling some horripilation coming on
yeah.
here.
Oh man, that really caused some horripilation about my skin.
The first sentence is still cracking me up.
That's interesting. I think the word goosebumps just because we use it so much, just you'll never use horripilation.
I'm gonna bring it back somehow. I'm not gonna say goosebumps anymore. I'm not gonna be like, ooh, that gave me chills. I'm like, ugh.
Whenever somebody says they have goosebumps, just look at them like, oh, you pedantic Middleton. What? Yeah, is that a bad word?
White milk toast, useless piece of human
white
garbage.
guilt.
What you're feeling is horripilation, asshole, not goosebumps.
You're an
Where
idiot.
the fucking geese? I don't see any geese.
An idiot. Goosebumps isn't real. Goose don't have bumps. Geese? Anyway, so that's a good word. Thank you, sir. And my word for the evening is hypergamy. Hypergamy. Which
sounds like how you would describe your grandmother if she had youth-like energy. She's a hypergamy.
Oh, my God. Or if you have really powerful sperm, they could be hypergametes. Sorry.
Not at all what that word means.
Not at all. No, hypergamy.
In either instance.
So hypergamy is colloquially, that's another good word. I like that word, actually. Colloquially referred to as marrying up, or the practice of marrying someone wealthier, of a higher caste or status than oneself. It doesn't necessarily relate to a specific gender. Men and women can both be participate in hypergamy, but women are usually the ones who are recognized as doing that. I think it tends to be women who marry for money more than men, at least as far as representation goes in the media, right? We don't hear about men that marry for money very often, but we hear about it from women all the time. I mean, Beyonce has a song about it, I think. Or no, it's Jay-Z, I think, has a song about... it's Kanye West. Sorry, they're all the same. Right? Those are all the same thing. Kanye West has that one about she ain't messing with no broke person.
But he doesn't use the word hypergamy, I bet, at all.
No, he doesn't use the word hypergamy.
He probably uses like gold digger. I feel like that's
he does use. It's what the name of the song is. Gold digger.
That's the typical
she's a gold digger. That's the other idea.
Phrase.
But hypergamy is actually marrying somebody. But the problem with I think hypergamy is a lot of times women will marry someone, higher status, and then they'll find someone else who's even higher status than that, and then they'll divorce their other person, make some money off of them, and then marry up again. So it's like continually marrying up.
This seems like a lot of work. It's funny how
but that is that they don't have a job.
Yeah, I guess that's their job. It's just funny the lengths that people will go sometimes to avoid being in legitimate employment. To make money. Like at a certain point, you're almost putting more effort into doing what you're doing than if you just had a job and just contributed to society.
Yeah, it's definitely a strategy. A life strategy is to, and it's much more acceptable years and years ago when women were housewives more often, and that was kind of their role, and they would stay home and. So obviously for a female to move up in status, that was probably something good for their family and something they kind of pushed and all that. So there's probably a lot of pressure to do it. But nowadays you don't get away with that kind of shit. You don't, no one looks at you and they're like, hey, way to go, way to, milk rich man for his money. For your sex.
Maybe within your own social clique, they would be like, oh, good job. Good for you.
Yeah.
You fucked him good.
Oh, my God. You got his money. That's awesome. And then you can divorce him for half.
Alimony, bitch.
Yeah, alimony. You put the money in alimony. That doesn't even rhyme. Anyway. But I think it's a good word, and it's an interesting word, and it's a word I didn't know about until somewhat recently. You gotta watch out. Gotta watch out for
those hypergamies.
Stefan Molyneux calls them estrogen-based parasites because they are females just suckling off of the economic resources of another man, or of a man, and then another man.
I wonder how many people who commit hypergamy or other acts similar to, if they. I feel like a lot of them probably just stumbled into it or just kind of happens and like, oh, shit, I could just keep doing this. But I wonder how many of them at a certain age when they're like 16, they're just like, I'm gonna fucking do this. This is my life. I'm not gonna go to college. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna find a rich guy and then fuck him.
Yeah.
Take his money and maybe leave him at a certain point if he's not satisfying enough for me.
Yeah.
But
I think a lot do. I think a lot don't obviously think about it like that, like straightforward. I think that they come from histories where it was acceptable, and it's not a bad thing necessarily to if you're a good housewife, if you work hard and you take care of kids or you take care of the house and you're good to your husband who is providing all of this stuff, that's not bad. It's if you're just using him and with no, intention of working hard and being a good, mate, then that's bad, But it's not necessarily bad to be like, I can offer you, the housework and I can offer you child rearing and I can offer you this. It's like a job. That's fine as long as you take it seriously and work hard. It's when you just, just take advantage of some lonely rich man and they and then you dump them or wait for them to die because they're old or something. That's when we think it's bad, but it's not necessarily it can be a pretty that's a totally acceptable job. Just like you would pay a nanny, you can pay your wife with resources and allowances and things. It's just we don't like the thought of that because it seems demeaning to women. But lots of men end up being house parents as well or whatever.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a problem. It's just a solution to economic issues in relationships. But we don't like the idea of only for money, kind of stuff. Even though that's pretty much why we go to work.
That's why you do most things.
Yeah,
in life
a lot of
is
stuff
to make
is,
money.
Money isn't
life.
bad. It's just we don't want. It would be bad if they, just divorce the dude after a couple of years, and so they can move up. I think that's the idea behind hypergamy is the idea of moving up repeatedly.
I wonder what the crowning achievement for hypergamy is. Like, it's a competition. So it's
probably
like
marrying the president.
Yeah, to say if you could make it to the president.
It depends on how depraved you are and how much money you want. If you want fame, then you marry an actor. If you want tons of money, then you marry a very rich actor.
Warren Buffett.
Or a really rich
Bill
businessman.
Gates.
Yeah, because really rich CEOs make way more than any actors.
Yeah.
And then you have, if you just want power, then you marry a congressman. But ultimately, I don't think people are doing this consciously, mostly.
I think you might be wrong. I think it might
That's
be
what I mean.
a whole underbelly.
Yeah. Like the hypergamy.com .org, and they all share tips and tricks
breed
to
and have
manipulating
daughters, and then immediately start a training regime on how to.
Well, that just happens anyway. Women train their daughters and train their sons unconsciously, even if they don't try, they end up training them. How
I just
they
picture
think life should be.
a really strict, almost boarding school situation where they.
That's a little different. Yeah, it's called Hypergamy University, and you just learn how to use men.
When your husband's bank account is down to 1/2 of what it was when you married him,
Yes.
What must you do?
Yes.
You must leave him.
Yes.
You must move on.
Sarah, what would we do in this situation? I would leave him and go for another richer man. I like Arnold Schwarzenegger as my celebrity motivations.
Oh, keep your fantasies to yourself.
Oh, he is not even that rich. That's great. It's even German or Austrian or whatever. I could see it being in that vein. That'd be fun.
You just have a kid and then off to hypergamy school.
Mm-hmm. What do we always ask for? Half. We ask for half or more. Yeah. What are we talking about?
Hypergamy.
Hypergamy. My grandma is pretty hyper.
Well, that just
She's
gave me a
dead,
little horripilation
actually.
when you said that. It's a little exciting.
Yeah. You watch a good show, get a little horripilation going on. Right on. So we don't have a ton of time because of some unexpected events.
Dumb things.
Extracurricular.
we got a
activity.
good,
So we got
like
about
15 minutes or so.
15 or so.
This will be
So
a bite-sized episode.
yeah, I don't know. So let's get started with this whole self-knowledge thing, because it's a huge topic, and if we're going to talk about it, we're probably going to need more time, so we can just kind of introduce what we want to talk about now, and then maybe next time get a little more in-depth about it. So we both have been curious about at least talking about the topic of self-knowledge, which is a somewhat it's a kind of ubiquitous, kind of big topic. What is self-knowledge? Why does it matter? Why are we particularly wanting to talk about it, and what do we want to talk about? So we haven't really gotten too in-depth about the specifics yet, but we've both been doing some research on self-knowledge. What is self-knowledge to you, Shannon?
I think that obviously it's about how much you know of yourself, but I think it goes deeper than that in the sense of how honest you're really going to be with who you are and the things you do and why you do them. Because I mean, obviously everybody knows themselves because it's you, but I think a lot of people don't really think really hard about like where they are in life, what they're doing, why they do those things. And I think that the answer to some of those questions can be a little terrifying and degrading upon yourself, like self-deprecating. In a way.
ego
yeah,
smashing
and
kind
so
of
like
stuff.
I think I think everybody to a certain extent hide those things and push them to the back of their mind to not think about, because it just makes them feel depressed. So to me, I mean, when I hear self-knowledge, that's what I would think of, is just knowing yourself and what you're capable of, and knowing yourself as far as positives, negatives, like everything. Because we all do dumb things that we don't really know why. We just do them, or we have like weird tics that I don't know. It's a very broad subject, like you said.
Sure.
I think it encompasses a lot of things. But I think it's something a lot of people don't really think about. You just get up in the morning, go about your day, and just make decisions on the fly. And a lot of people probably don't really think about why they do them.
Yeah, I think it's about diving into your psychological history and your the way that you deal with things and your defense mechanisms, understanding that you have a subconscious model, you have a subconscious self, you have a mechanism that's going on all the time that you're not conscious of, that actually is very very all-encompassing and deep and effective, and well, it might not be effective like in a positive way, but it affects you. It's very powerful. Your subconscious is something that we don't know a lot about, and we, even scientifically have a very small amount of information about subconscious things, but we all know that there's a subconscious drive, and there's a subconscious kind of world that we're not necessarily always aware of, and by gaining self-knowledge we can look into those things, and a lot of times subconscious memories and subconscious desires manifest themselves in your behavior and your habits, and they kind of inform why you do things. But yeah, self-knowledge to me is different than self-consciousness. Or self-awareness. So you have you're like, oh, I'm a person, I'm an individual, I make decisions. That's not really what self-knowledge is. Self-knowledge is, what do I do? And how can I figure out why I do specific things, or why I've made certain decisions, and going into it a little bit less biased and a little less with a lot of preconceived notions, like trying to look at it a little more objectively, trying to look at what you do a little bit more from outside of yourself, and trying to figure out in a less emotional and a little more dispassionate way, like what it is that you do and why do you think you do those things from a perspective that isn't necessarily super geared toward preserving your ego and preserving your preconceived notions about yourself, like really breaking past the idea that like I always do the right thing, or I was just trying to do the right thing, like kind of getting past a lot of those lies that you tell yourself to preserve your ego and to make you feel better, because we always are in the pursuit of maximizing happiness and diminishing unpleasant things or unhappiness. And in so doing, we come up with ways of repressing and denying a lot of things that happen in our lives because they're unpleasant and because they bring up negative emotions. And by going back to our past and going back to our behaviors and looking at ourselves through a lens that is critical and methodical, then you can start to dive into and unravel some of the automatic responses that you have in an effort to be more deliberate and more conscious of your behavior in the future, so that you can affect your life in a better and more positive and more honest way without letting all of these subconscious, self-defenses get in the way of like a kind of deeper happiness or a deeper knowledge of yourself, or which also in turn allows you to know and understand the world and people around you a lot better as well, because you can't really understand people without understanding yourself, because you're the best representation of humanity for yourself. You can really only know your own thoughts and your own experiences. You can't really know the thoughts and experiences of somebody else to the level that they can. So it's really the first place to start when it comes to understanding reality, is to understand yourself and your role in making decisions and things like that. So it's kind of a
gateway to the world.
Yeah, it's you see everything through your own lens, through your own perspective, and so by looking inward at how you process information, how you deal with things, you can get a better understanding of how the world really is, at least in a more objective way, I think. But also understanding that you're a person with emotions that matter, and it's about just kind of understanding that you can express emotion and not be super afraid of them. Like it's okay to be sad. You just want to kind of unpack that sadness and figure out what triggered it and why and what memories you remember of it and all that stuff. So
something I feel like you have to be careful too in reflecting on this is preserving your own self-esteem and in the process of understanding that, like you said, you're a person that is capable of many things, good and bad, and
right.
I think that's why a lot of people shut that stuff out. It diminishes their self-esteem because of a poor choice that they made or actions that they've done, and so they just choose to ignore it. Otherwise, you just get down on yourself for being stupid or being in error.
Yeah, I think it's really important when you're looking at yourself to be sympathetic to what you've gone through and be sympathetic to yourself as if you were being sympathetic to someone else in your position, because it's easy to get down on yourself, but it's a little more difficult. Like if I see a kid going through the same thing I went through, I'd be really, really sympathetic to them, because I'd be like, oh my God, they're just a kid and look what they have to go through. But as when I look back at my own childhood, I tend to blame myself for all that stuff that I did and felt, as opposed to really understanding the environment that I was in and getting a better perspective of what I was going through, and not just putting it all on myself and being like, well, I'm not good enough, I didn't do enough, I was stupid or whatever. It's about not self-attacking and being more objective, being like, well, who wouldn't act like that in that particular circumstance?
You almost have to dissect your memories too.
Yeah.
'Cause, for a while, you just remember things how you remembered them without really thinking about it. You just oh, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
But then I think sometimes if you go back and really think about it, like I do that a lot with thinking about things that happened when I was a kid and stuff, and it just makes you realize that, I don't know, like a lot of other things affected the decisions that I made growing up, but the way that I behaved that I didn't even realize, because I just remembered, maybe I got spanked for doing something, but there were other things that affected that decision. It wasn't just me wanting to be a dick.
Sure. Well, yeah, and you tend to look at things in a really specific way that was framed for you. Like when you do something bad, you look at it from the perspective of your parents, who are all-knowing and all-powerful in your life when you're a child, and you just kind of like go with what they say. They say you did something bad, you're a bad kid, that's why you got hurt, so you feel bad about yourself. But then you look at it in the future, and you look back and you go, well, all I did was this particularly childish thing that all children do, and I made him, I didn't even make a mistake. It was just I just didn't really understand the consequences or something, and instead of having compassion and understanding, which is something that parents teach, my parents essentially just were negative and made it all my fault, and they didn't understand my perspective on the situation. And so you look back at that and you go, maybe I didn't need to feel so bad about myself. Maybe maybe I'm living life under a filter of kind of put upon perspectives. Like somebody just interjected all these, reasons and morality on my life, and maybe I wasn't really the bad person in that situation. Mm-hmm. Maybe there were other circumstances or other people involved that affected my ability to make decisions and my perspective on the world and all that. Because, we're shaped by our early environments, and we don't know that while we're going through it. And so when you grow up later, you oftentimes have such patchy memories that to go back to those spots is really difficult, because we tend to block things out of our memory that are unpleasant. So, and yet those are the ones that we really need to understand to figure ourselves out. So that's why I think a lot of talk therapy, psychotherapy, dream analysis, journaling, those kind of things are beneficial to remembering things and to not repressing things that you can recall.
Yeah.
Those are all helpful things, but I think we can talk about that next time. We really do not have any time to deal with this right now. It really sucks, but maybe we can get into some more specifics next time. I definitely wanted to talk about different activities that you can do to try to learn about yourself, and talk about some of the ways to get to know your unconscious or your subconscious. Your unconscious self is just sort of asleep, but your subconscious is a little more useful. Getting away from automatic responses, which I think is the ultimate goal of self-knowledge, is to not be the kind of person who just does things and then looks back and goes, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
Is to stop and be like, oh, my normal reaction would be to do this, but that's not good, so I'm going to do this. It's about creating a new loop of behavioral insight so that you can make better decisions. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Instead of just being automatically responding to things. So yeah, I guess that's just an intro for now.
An introduction to self-knowledge. To be continued.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, we'll do part 2 about this topic next time.
Next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Good night and good luck.
All right. I feel completely unsatisfied, but whatever.
I know, it's very quick.
Adult life is not always what you want it. I love you.